C'est presque comme chez nous. Bonjour tout le monde, merci d'être venu. C'est un jour important parce que c'est pour la première fois en presque 4 ans de la guerre ukrainienne, il y a la possibilité d'un pays juste et durable. Et la réunion cet après-midi avec les représentants des États-Unis, le président Zelenskyy et les leaders du noyau dur, en effet, de la coalition de volonté, y compris le Canada, évidemment. Le but de cette réunion est de finaliser les garanties de sécurité pour une paix en Ukraine et d'avoir une discussion et d'avancer le plan de prospérité économique pour l'Ukraine. Et c'est dans l'intérêt du Canada de mettre le fin de cette guerre. C'est consistant avec nos valeurs, la démocratie, les droits humains, la souveraineté des États. Et au fond, c'est dans nos intérêts parce que l'Ukraine est la pierre angulaire de la sécurité européenne. Alors, on va travailler très fort pour ces objectifs. Thank you for coming. It's an important meeting this afternoon between President Zelenskyy, the U.S. representatives of this peace process, Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, and the leaders of the core of the coalition of the willing, obviously including Canada. Our main objective is to finalize the security guarantees amongst ourselves which create the possibility of a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. We will also be having discussions around the economic plan, advancing that work, the so-called prosperity plan for Ukraine. All of this is part of a 20-point peace plan that has been negotiated. I will use the assessment of President Zelenskyy that, in effect, in his judgment, we are 90% of the way there to peace. The final elements need to be negotiated on a tripartite basis, United States, Ukraine, and Russia. Le point final en français. Selon le président Zelenskyy, nous sommes 90% de la paix ou de l'accord de la paix a été attendu maintenant. Et les points finaux doivent être négociés entre l'Ukraine, la Russie et les États-Unis. Après cette réunion, si nous réussissons dans la réunion, et ça c'est le but, et j'ai confiance qu'on va réussir aujourd'hui. Okay, so that's just to start, and happy to take some questions.
Prime Minister Michael Couture, CTV News, thanks for taking our questions. In terms of security guarantees that Canada can offer, do we have the military bench strength to supply troops?
Yeah, so I'll just give a high-level outline and answer your question. And I say high-level in part because what we're doing, and I want to salute Jenny Carrigan, the chief of our defense force, our national security advisors, others who've been working intensively over the last few weeks, but over the course of the last months with their partners in developing the operational elements of this. So I'm going to speak in a high level, recognizing there's a lot more underneath about what I'm about to say. The first line of defense, obviously, is the Ukrainian armed forces, and one of the elements of the 20-point plan, peace plan, is going to be the size of the Ukrainian armed forces, which is considerable as it's negotiated now, so the size would be very large. Secondly, there is monitoring and other support, logistics support that would be provided, training support to make sure that the Ukrainian armed forces over the medium term and longer term can defend themselves. Then the backstops become the coalition of the willing forces, so-called multilateral force, of which Canada would be a member under this framework, and very importantly, the United States is playing a backstop role. Do we have so to get to your specific question, do we have the The bench strength, to use your term, well, we've been building that bench, and we're going to continue to build that bench. The largest military buildup in generations, coming over the course of the next 5 years, an additional $80 billion of investment, in part because of issues like this, very importantly because of issues in our perimeter. I'll point specifically to the Canadian Arctic as an example there. So yes, we do. There would need to be a redeployment. But the last point I'll make, and just to put in context, which, of course, we're stronger together. So we're as part of a coalition, as part of a multilateral force, coming behind and coming with the Americans. That means that our contribution has a much bigger effect than obviously that we would if we were on our own.
You mentioned in your opening that today is to finalize those security guarantees. If that doesn't happen today, is today's meeting a failure?
Well, we don't expect to fail. A lot of great work has been done that's brought to the point. It needs to be interrogated, if you will, by leaders, which is what's going to happen this afternoon. And I think the way I look at this in terms of the intention and the goodwill and the seriousness with which the countries, Canada included, are approaching this is if we don't finalize, and I think we will finalize, but if we were not to finalize today, it's because we've identified issues where they could be improved or adjusted, and then we would come back and work on this. This is not a make or break, but maybe I'll just reemphasize one point. There is a lot of momentum in this process. And that's why it's important. It's important that Canada is here. That's why I'm here, is because there's momentum, because that progress has been made, and important to, as I say, to finalize this key component of a broader peace agreement.
Bonjour, M. Carney. Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Concrètement, qu'est-ce qu'on peut offrir à l'Ukraine? Est-ce qu'on peut offrir des troupes canadiennes en Ukraine? Vous n'avez jamais exclu ça complètement. Est-ce que ce sera surtout de la formation et de l'équipement? Et si on n'arrive pas à s'entendre aujourd'hui sur des garanties de sécurité, quelle est la conséquence?
On commence avec l'offre canadienne. Et ils sont des possibilités à ce moment-ci. Mais on commence avec, oui, la formation. Maintenant, le Canada fournit la formation pour les troupes ukrainiennes en Pologne, pour les troupes ukrainiennes pendant la guerre. Et je peux vous fournir les montants après à la conférence de presse parce que je veux vérifier, mais c'est des 10 000 de soldats. Je crois que c'est à peu près
45 000.
Oui, c'est ça.
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire de plus?
Mais oui, on doit faire de plus parce que la taille des forces ukrainiennes va augmenter à cause de l'accord du paix. Ça c'est le premier point. Deuxièmement, on peut fournir les logistiques et la surveillance et le cyber et tout cela. On peut aider ça. Troisièmement, on peut fournir, et on va fournir, la production des armements pour les Ukrainiens, des joint ventures entre l'Ukraine et le Canada. Nous avons déjà commencé ces projets-là, mais on va les augmenter. En ce qui concerne les troupes, les soldats sur le terrain ukrainien, oui, c'est une possibilité. C'est une possibilité. Mais il faut avoir une coalition de la volonté, il faut avoir une force multilatérale, y compris les États-Unis. Mais c'est exactement ça qui est sur la table. Mais tous les détails, on va avoir une discussion ouverte, transparente, après le processus du paix. Parce qu'il faut avoir l'accord du paix avec la Russie et l'Ukraine afin de mettre en œuvre une garantie de sécurité.
Devant les paroles et les actions de Donald Trump au Venezuela et à propos du Groenland, Quelle est la position du Canada sur la défense du Groenland? Est-ce que vous croyez, comme votre homologue danoise que vous allez rencontrer aujourd'hui, qu'une action militaire américaine là-bas voudrait dire la fin de l'OTAN?
Premier point, en ce qui concerne l'avenir de Groenland, c'est uniquement une décision pour le peuple, pour le Groenland et le Danemark. Okay? Uniquement le Groenland et le Danemark. Deuxième point, en ce qui concerne le rôle de l'OTAN, depuis longtemps, et pendant toute la période quand je suis Premier ministre, c'est la position du Canada qu'il faut investir dans la sécurité de l'Arctique. En effet, l'Arctique canadien, l'Arctique de Groenland et l'espace nordique. Okay? Et on fait de progrès dans l'OTAN, mais il faut avancer le progrès. Il faut augmenter le progrès. Alors, j'aurai une discussion cet après-midi avec le secrétaire général de l'OTAN, M. Rutte, sur ce sujet. Okay.
What?
Oh, we'll do two. Fine. We've got Murray here. Yeah.
Mackenzie
Go.
Ray with Global News, Prime Minister.
Sorry.
President Trump has said one of the key reasons that he went into Venezuela was to get the oil out. Do you think this will impact the Canadian oil sector, and does that increase the need, in your estimation, to have a pipeline to the northwest coast of BC?
I'll say a couple of things. One is that, from our perspective, the removal of an illegitimate, corrupt, repressive government or leader, Mr. Maduro, is welcome news. It creates the possibility for democratic transition in Venezuela. We very much support that. We're available to support that, and we urge that to happen in a peaceful transition. And that's the best prospect for greater prosperity for the Venezuelan people and to respect the will of the Venezuelan people. Now, a functioning, not corrupt Venezuelan economy will produce more oil. It'll be better for the Venezuelan people. It'll be more stable for the Western Hemisphere. That's all a good thing. Canadian oil, Canadian energy, but I'll speak because you asked specifically about Canadian oil. It's been our view, and we're working towards this, that Canadian oil will be competitive because it is low risk, clearly low risk, low cost, the marginal costs. There's been huge progress in getting down the costs, and low carbon, which is what the Pathways project, carbon capture, will bring. And that makes Canadian oil competitive for the medium and long term. So we welcome the prospect of peace, a peaceful transition, democratic Venezuela. We welcome the prospect of greater prosperity in Venezuela, but we also see the competitiveness of Canadian oil, and we're investing, or we're putting in place measures so that that's going to happen. And in that context, a pipeline and exports to Asia. We've got competitive product, and we'd be diversifying our markets, and that's one of the reasons why we signed the comprehensive MOU with Alberta. So we'll be working towards that.
Ms. Freeland resigned yesterday as your special representative.
Is that a follow-up?
The
That seems like a
reconstruction
totally
law.
different
I wish we
question.
had more time. I wanted to ask more Venezuela stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Did you ask her not to quit because of the minority parliament situation right now?
No, absolutely not. First off, let me.
I should say, as a member of parliament.
Let me. No. Just to be clear. Ms. Freeland, Krista has served our country for well over a decade in a formal role as a parliamentarian, certainly in a number of ministerial posts, and served with great distinction. She was. I had her as my special envoy after she left cabinet for the Ukraine reconstruction. Judgment became her judgment that she could be more useful for that process as she was leaving, as she was retiring as a parliamentarian, as a direct advisor. My judgment was that taking that role would be consistent with resigning. as an MP, and I welcomed her doing that, and I'm pleased that for Ukraine. And again, if I can reemphasize and bring it back to today, there is real momentum. Nothing's assured, but there's real momentum in this peace process. And the security guarantees are incredibly important, but as is the reconstruction and the prosperity plan, and she'll be there to work on that. And look, we'll have a by-election. There'll be a few by-elections coming up, and we'll run great candidates, and the people in those ridings will decide who they want to send to Parliament. Mr. Brewster.
Prime
Saved it
Minister,
for you.
Mark Brewster with CBC News. Thanks for taking our questions. I just want to pick up on what Christian was talking with you about a moment ago on Greenland. The Danish Prime Minister has said that any type of military force used to annex Greenland would be the end of NATO. Do you concur with that assessment?
Well, let me reiterate what I said to Mr. Noel, which is that the future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and for Denmark exclusively. It's their decision. Secondly, from a NATO context, the way I would frame it is that the western flank of NATO, which would include Greenland, the Arctic, is, given the evolving threat environment, is an area that we as NATO, Canada obviously importantly, given our geography, need to invest more in. This is a point that we've been making in recent years and since I became Prime Minister, that we've really stressed. And with our build-up that's just beginning of our military capabilities, we are making heavy investments in the Arctic. We'll be working with our Nordic partners. We'll be working through NATO. This is one of the issues I'll be discussing with the Secretary General as part of an ongoing discussion with him around this to further advance it.
Stephen Miller, who is a senior advisor to President Trump, has refused to rule out military force in the annexation of Greenland. Does that trouble you?
Well, I didn't see the specific comments that Mr. Miller may have made. Look, I'll take a step back. We're partners in NATO. It is a mutual defense alliance. We can provide that security. And when we look at a couple basic, there's basic principles here, which is self-determination of nations, sovereignty, territorial integrity. And then there is approaches that we have as partners to what we're trying to accomplish. And as NATO, we can provide security for all of NATO, Greenland included. And as the threat environment is changing, we're making the investments in order to do that, and we can operationalize and augment and build additional plans to do that. So, and that's what we will do. And we stand with Denmark, we stand with Greenland. Our closest partnership is with the United States, and we'll work with everybody to make sure that we move forward together. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
There you go. And we'll be back. Have a good morning.